I want to know everything there is to know about you.
I am going to introduce me.
You must have spotted her by now. She's always there.
Don't I deserve love?
Somebody has to like me best.
Hello, and welcome to the Don't Know Her podcast. I'm Michael.
And I don't know her.
And we have a big birthday
That's actually
today.
really funny. That was improvised. It might feel like an easy joke, but that was very funny.
I think we should include that. What are we here? And we're here, as usual, to talk about an actor who we dearly love and we feel should be celebrated much more than they already have been.
Oh, we're not here as usual. We're here to celebrate the greatest of all time. And I'm not talking about myself. I am talking about who we are here to talk about.
A little hint there, listeners, as this is Scott's birthday episode.
Who, me? Never.
Can we share your age?
You can, but only to select people.
So the 5 people that listen to this.
That'll do, those guys.
So you're going to be 30.
30.
The big 3-0. Which means you were born in 1992.
Correct.
And
oh my god, are you going to do the intro to me like we normally do?
That would be amazing.
Born in Aberdeen, Scotland on the 22nd of July, 1992. Oh my god,
Love
that's
it.
So nice.
Lost his virginity
I still
in the
have
future.
Not. Yeah.
Sometime in the future. Which is no problem. There's no shame in that.
I shall never.
Okay, jokes aside, of course, as we have made our little tradition, you have chosen who we're talking about today, who is indeed a goat.
Oh my god, but the most beautiful of goats I've ever seen.
Yeah, greatest of all time.
And she's got a good bleat on her too.
Excuse me, say that again?
She's got a good bleat on her as well.
Is that the sound a goat makes?
I would say a bleat, but maybe it's a ba?
I never had goats on the farm.
You know, I think bleat.
Well, who is the goat we're talking about?
Well, truly the goat and an all-time favourite of mine, maybe my favourite we've talked about in this podcast. I don't know. We've talked about some wonderful people. But it is the incredible Annette Bening.
Yes, and I, openly, when you first suggested Annette, I thought, no, she's too famous.
Yeah.
Like she is
fine.
very celebrated. She does get these lead parts quite often still. But then when I thought about it and started asking people about her and what people know her from, it's very clear that she is not in the sort of fame league of a Glenn Close or a Meryl Streep or, say, Olivia Colman or any of these sorts of actors who get to do these lead parts in independent movies and are celebrated kind of like universally. And she's like a quiet-ish performer in a way in terms of her career, which is really ironic, seeing as she's married to one of the most famous movie stars, movie makers of all time. Warren Beatty is the sister-in-law of one of the greatest people.
The other goat.
Oh my god, the mother goat. The mother goat, Shirley MacLaine.
I want to be around theirs for Thanksgiving.
Oh my lord.
Oh.
Yeah, so she essentially is Hollywood royalty, and yet somehow still feels very kind of, I don't know, independent or quiet. Like, quiet is the wrong word to keep using for her, but she just seems very kind of low profile compared to these other actors that were her contemporaries.
I think she could have had a much higher profile. I think she's a film fan's film star.
That's a good way to put it, yes.
And in the best way. She is as talented as they come. She is as dazzling as the stars. No,
oh my God. What even is that?
I just made it up. But for Annette, I'd do anything.
And what about her in particular made you want to talk about her?
Oh, gosh, what is it about her? The magic that she holds the secret to the greatest possible way to act. I don't actually know. She just always has been a favourite. She was a favourite of mine as soon as I started loving films. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think my favourites that I had at that time, say 12, 13, when I started really getting into films, those ones are still probably who I like the most. And that would be Annette Bening, Frances McDormand, and, sorry to say it out loud, but Meryl Streep. But Annette is... I mean, those three women are very unique in their own ways, but she is magnetic, and whenever I've watched her, I can't take my eyes off her. She has presence and then some, and I just can't get enough. So for my special day, how could I not choose Annette Bening?
Yeah.
What about you, though? What do you love about Annette? Maybe you don't. You're like, I'm just doing this for you.
No, I really do like Annette, and I've gone to see so many films simply because she's been in them. So, like, say, Hope Gap, which openly I just call it a mediocre at best film, but knowing she's in it, like, I know that I'm going to get a character and a portrayal that is complicated, that is still... like she has such presence when she comes onto the screen in all of the films, even something like The Women, like a romantic comedy. When she's there, she seems to have this presence where she is kind of all-knowing, but she's also discovering life as we're watching her on screen. So she's wise, but she can also be a little bit, say, eccentric or needy or devastated. Like, she's all, like, she can be very complicated, but
yes.
you trust with whatever part she's playing that she is learning from it, and as an audience you're on a journey with her and you'll learn through it.
That's so good. That's such a good way of putting it, because I think of that in particular with a film which we will talk about, where I can just feel her, like you say, learning so much from playing the part. But I think that does happen in everything. I think she's giving so much in a way that you just spoke of so eloquently. What a wonderful thing. Yes.
Aww. Yeah, even like film stars don't die in Hollywood. Sorry, they die in Hollywood. Film stars don't die in Liverpool. She is playing like Gloria Graham, who's this Oscar-winning actress at the end of her life and career. But there is a real sense of her, even though she's learned all this stuff about life and experience, she's still enjoying it and she's still getting something out of it. She's still, I don't know, making the most of it. So there's something about her in all those parts, I guess. And do you remember when you first clocked eyes with Miss Bening?
I reckon it was American Beauty, because I think for many film fans of our age, I think that's always one of the go-to films. It was always you must watch this film. And again, we will get to it. At the time, for me, was an incredibly rewarding thing and only made me more excited about cinema, and she was a huge player in that.
Whose car is that out front?
Mine. 1970 Pontiac Firebird, the car I've always wanted, and now I have it. I rule!
However, I muddle it up in that I used to watch the Great Outdoors a lot as a kid, and that was her film debut. I don't know. It's between the two of them, but I remember her first from American Beauty.
Well,
what about you?
I remember her distinctly from a film I was obsessed with, Mars Attacks.
Oh, cool. Right, okay, because I didn't watch Mars Attacks until recently. Otherwise, I'm sure I'd be the same.
And she plays... So Mars Attacks is this alien invasion spoof of 1960s B-horror cheap movies from Tim Burton with an all-star cast from, like, Tom Jones to Jack Nicholson to Glenn Close. So many people are in it. Danny DeVito, Sarah Jessica Parker, Pierce Brosnan. It's just amazing.
It is wild.
She's playing this hippie wife of a rich person in Vegas.
Byron, do you know anyone who can fly a plane?
Yeah, your husband Art.
No, he's dead. I told him this was going to happen. I even loaded a plane with supplies. I want to go to Tahoe, to the Tahoe Caves. It's remote. The Martians won't find it.
Well, where's the plane?
Private airfield, other side of the freeway.
You think it'll fly to Washington, D.C.?
Why? I want to go to Tahoe.
So yeah, and I really, really liked her. But as you say, then getting to know film and of the age that we're at, for sure, like American Beauty would have been when I really was like, oh my lord, like this character, and I was really drawn into the film at the time through her character. And I think rewatching it now, I'm like, I understand a lot of reasons why that would have been at my age. But yeah, so no, always a fan. And as I said, I will go and see most things with her in it if I think there's going to be something nourishing about the film and about the content of it, because that's what I associate with her and what she's interested in terms of filmmaking and the sorts of parts she takes on.
She is nourishing. She gives nourishment to all. Thank you, Annette.
Unless you're Shirley. No. In my head, like her and Shirley MacLaine aren't friends, but that...
Oh God, don't put that in my head. That makes me sad.
Just a bit of drama. So, okay, so as it's your birthday, do you want to give us a rundown of your favourite... Your flavour of the month?
Flavour of the month? Flavour of my life, darling. Don't downplay Annette like that. But of course, gladly. So... Annette Bening was born on the 22nd of July 1992. Just kidding, that was me. She was born on the 29th of May 1958 in Topeka, Kansas. Whichever the pronunciation is, perhaps none of those, you decide. She was brought up in Wichita, Kansas during her early childhood, and then her family relocated to San Diego, California. It was here that she began dabbling in the world of drama, playing the lead, which I can only assume is Maria, but when I look online it just says the lead in The Sound of Music, in a school production.
I think I think that's true. I was listening to a podcast and she talked about that, yeah.
It must be Maria. They can't have been like, Liesel is the lead.
Well, I wish she'd playing the Baroness.
I was going to say, like, the lead to you is the Baroness, so it could have been the Baroness, but let's assume Maria. From there, she went on to study drama at high school in San Diego, before attending San Diego Mesa College and achieving a degree in theatre arts from San Francisco State University. Her stage career began in Colorado, where she starred in the Shakespeare Festival there in 1980. She furthered her training in San Francisco whilst acting in productions such as Macbeth, playing the Lady Macbeth herself, of course, as part of the American Conservatory Theatre. She performed across the country in several other productions before her Broadway debut in Coastal Disturbances in 1987, which garnered her a Tony Award nomination. In 1988, this brought the beginnings of her fabulous film career with The Great Outdoors, which I've already mentioned as one that I watched a lot as a kid, and I never knew it was her debut, but very exciting. Following this, her career flourished over the next handful of years with roles in Valmont, which is a take on the Dangerous Liaisons book novel, The Grifters, which brought about her first Oscar nomination, and Bugsy alongside her now husband Warren Beatty. She would star with him again in 1994's Love Affair, before a couple more of her memorable...
Wait, Katharine Hepburn was also in Love Affair.
I'm so sorry. How dare I just talk about Warren? What a bore.
Oh, but what? Yeah, wonderful. It was Katharine Hepburn's last movie.
Was it really?
I think so. I believe so. This is a podcast, and would I lie?
No, you would never. We've never told a lie on this podcast. We promise. Well, great. So she worked with Katharine and also that guy Warren in Love Affair. And then some more memorable entries like The American President, which I'm a big fan of, Mars Attacks, which you're a big fan of, Richard III, and The Siege, coming along over the years thereafter. But of course, as you kind of gather from us, Bening will be known to many for her Oscar-nominated turn in the Best Picture, Oscar-winning American Beauty from 1999. Although missing out to Hilary Swank for the first time for the Academy Award, she did, however, take home the BAFTA and the SAG Awards for this performance. Neatly following on, the 2000s brought, I guess, quite a different array of films, actually, when you look at what she was up to in the noughties, ranging from Kevin Costner's Open Range. You have Ryan Murphy's Running with Scissors, which I think is sort of his semi-autobiographical take on his mother. In there we also have the universally slaughtered remake of The Women, and of course her third Oscar nominated turn in Being Julia from 2004, and then her fourth and latest so far.
And you're just gonna skip over Swank stealing an Oscar for a second time.
I was too hurt by saying it the first time, so I thought I'd leave it there. And also, I talked so ill of her in the past. I want to leave her alone. She doesn't deserve that from me. Swank's a good lady, I'm sure.
But we like her. We like Hilary Swank.
We do. No,
and
she's
it's
amazing.
awful to be talking about people from
Two very deserving wins from Hilary Swank. It's just unfortunate that she beat Annette twice. But I don't hold any grudges, I promise. But yeah, so then following on from that, her latest so far, because surely there's going to be more, Oscar-nominated turn came in Lisa Cholodenko's The Kids Are All Right in 2010. And then just to run through a few other of the highlights from the past 10 years or so, we have the incredible 20th Century Women, Ginger and Rosa, Ruby Sparks, Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, Captain Marvel, she snuck into the Marvel Universe, Hope Gap, and most recently, Death on the Nile. Stepping away from film, there's perhaps not as much as you'd think, but on stage she did score a second Tony nomination for All My Sons in 2019, and also had one Emmy nomination for her work on TV, which again, fairly slim actually, which was a film in itself, but a TV film, Mrs. Harris. But Annette, what an eventful, a varied career. She is incredibly beloved and respected, like you say, but even still, she's an all-time favourite, and I always do pine for more. So, always gunning for, if nothing else, that eventual Oscar win. But that's Annette.
Yeah, the Oscar thing is interesting in that, you know, we have Glenn Close and Amy Adams, who've been nominated much more, let's say, and probably feel more, what's the word?
Boring?
Lacking of an Oscar. I don't know if Annette Bening totally is deserving of it, and to me, some of her best performances have been ignored by the Academy in a way. I'm very confused. Yeah. So where like people all like, you know, grouped around Julianne Moore winning an Oscar finally for Still Alice, I can't comprehend how that hasn't happened for Annette Bening in something like 20th Century Women. Yes. And I guess maybe she's probably like delighted with everything, and she's still getting obviously films made. Like her name is getting budgets, so for whatever's working, I'm delighted. Because maybe if she had won an Oscar for Being Julia or American Beauty, her career might have been different. So I'm just grateful for her.
Yeah,
how it has been so far. Yeah, hopefully she'll win.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels right for her. Normally, I wouldn't necessarily be so convinced that it's important, but for Annette, it just feels right. But I want it to be for the right thing, because she's so great that had she have won for Being Julia, for example, which is one of the two where she lost to Hilary Swank, it wouldn't have been right. It wouldn't have been the one. It would have been a disappointing win for such a great career, really. Even though she's fabulous in it, it just wouldn't have been right. So
for sure, and she's always like Hilary Swank's two performances are astonishing, I think, or like very striking. And very emotional. So it's hard to vote against. She lost to Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost for the Grifters, which is a hard thing to compete with. Yeah. And then she lost to Natalie Portman in Black Swan on her last Oscar nomination. So I think that's pretty tough to compete with those.
It is, yeah.
But next time, there'll be no competition.
No, how could there possibly?
So where should we start? Maybe because this is a film which she is probably most famously associated with is American Beauty.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a wise place to start. Because probably a lot to talk about, but also maybe in certain ways important to get it out the way.
Yeah, it's so I think many films going back, 23 years will have aged. Particularly films that are trying to deal with something that was at the time exciting and underrepresented, such as a cis white heterosexual male character finding a way for him to escape the demands of life. Which nowadays, that sort of movie, that sort of story, would be understandably maybe question of like, well, don't they have enough of a platform, these sorts of characters? And American Beauty is also starring a man who is now infamous for sexual assault allegations.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Spacey, in what would have been considered one of the great performances given by an actor around that time. So it is tricky, and then made even more so because he is playing a character who behaves in many toxic ways, which, because of the structure of the film, celebrates that behavior, such as being interested in a young woman next door, the way he speaks to his family, the way he treats his wife. We'll get into details of that sort of thing because obviously Annette is playing Kevin's wife in the film, but it is a tricky film to watch. I found it incredibly unpleasant, and which is a really upsetting thing because, as you mentioned earlier, it's a film that I would have really liked. And in terms of structure, the script is great. It's the content of it that is, for me anyway, makes it kind of repulsive as a story now.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame. But Annette Bening is so good in this movie. The film is maybe does her a disservice to at points because she's the villain. She's kind of she's both the villain to be like, you know, Kevin Spacey quits his job, he does all these things, and she wants to hold on to everything that is society tells you that you should have. So a great house, a good job, great hair, great outfits, a couch. In one of the probably most famous scenes, I guess, she comes back and Kevin Spacey's out of a job playing with some motor car. What do you call those things?
Like a remote control car or something, yeah.
And he's horny and he wants to have sex, and he approaches her on the couch.
Lester, you're going to spill beer on the couch.
So what? It's just a couch.
This is a $4,000 sofa upholstered in Italian silk. This is not just a couch.
It's just a couch!
And I think the film is suggesting she's terrible for this. Like, she's pushing back. She's this a tropey wife character, which is very frustrating. I'd do that. Like, if I have an expensive thing and I've worked hard to pay for it, and then some lech of a man, or well, regard any man, wants to like mess that up, I'd like, no, step away. But the thing with Annette is she does play on his head, and she is more empowered than you. I think the intention is with that character. I think that's played for laughs, and she's the villain, and you understand why Kevin Spacey would treat her and their child so badly.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I kind of went into it thinking, right, I will struggle to get past the Kevin Spacey thing, but let's try, because honestly, his performance was one of my favourites of all time when I started loving film. The film was one of my favourites of all time when I started loving film. Looking at it now, it's very much kind of like a how to make a film crammed with metaphors, the kind of 101 guide to, because it's all very like, what does red represent? What does cutting the roses represent? You know, it is a little on the nose, but at the time I found it incredibly engaging, and it just worked for me on so many levels. But I was like, will I get past the kind of ickiness of it because of Kevin Spacey? But it's actually, watching it, I could from that, but it's the framing of the whole thing which is strange, because it's like, well, these stories can exist, you know. I'm not someone who's going to erase films about white cis men because we're in 2022. No. But the thing about this one is that it is rife with misogyny because of how it frames its female characters, particularly Annette Bening's character, in that she is considered to be the worst because she chooses to have an affair in these things, even though they're in an unhappy marriage. However, he's considered to be a bit of a hero because he has these really grotty and icky fantasies about his daughter's friend who is underage. And when we first meet her and he meets her, it's so, his leeriness is just so yucky. It was that stuff I found hard to get past. Kevin Spacey stuff makes it harder still, but it was actually the content. So you made a really good point that the script is great. The writing is fabulous. It's very exciting. It's, loaded with great and funny lines, especially for Annette, and for Kevin Spacey too, but especially for Annette. However, it's what is happening, the action, which is a bit too yucky to see past. So whereas this was something I loved, it's now something that I'm like, it is icky. And I remember people telling me when I was much younger that it was kind of misogynistic, and I was like, no, because it's got great female characters. It does. However, the framing of the man is a problem here. But she is absolutely incredible, and it's worth having this film, if only to hold Annette's incredible performance with incredible line readings and just situations which are a joy. So many moments are so much fun, especially for me when she is attempting to sell this house today.
I will sell this house today.
And because she is a real estate agent, and she is struggling to get rid of some of the houses she has in the market, and seeing her try to do that is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's very campy.
Very camp. It's so camp. Yeah. It's so camp.
Yeah, that is kind of definition camp. And then I was listening to an interview where she talked about American Beauty and saying Alan Ball, who people probably know better for 6 Feet Under, the TV show and whatever, but he wrote the script, and Sam Mendes directed American Beauty, and she was saying how, they stuck to the script quite a lot, but there were moments where they improvised, and one of the improvising bits she was very proud of is the dinner sequence, and Kevin Spacey's had enough. This is at the point of the film where he is feeling very empowered.
I am sick and tired of being treated like I don't exist. You two do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it, and I don't complain.
And she loses her shit, and it's that she's improvised.
Oh, please, excuse me. I must be psychotic then. If you don't complain, what is this? Yeah, let's bring in the laugh meter and see how loud it gets on that one.
And then I guess this is symptomatic of what you're talking about. The film is that scene ends with Kevin Spacey throwing a plate, which suggests his liberation is limited to just himself.
Yeah.
So it is a shame, but she is glorious. Even if again the film isn't on her side, Annette is finding the colours, let's say, to bring this character to life. But yeah, I mean, would you recommend this film to someone today if they'd never seen it? Not to study script writing or to characters or performance, but as a piece of entertainment?
No, because I think it is too tricky.
It's just
no. I think that's it. Based on with those criteria, no, I would not. Eliminating those things, no, I would not. But it's so tough because the content is the problem, but the craft is amazing. It's quite trendy now to shit on American Beauty, and we've also kind of just done it ourselves. So hey, we're buying into it, and we are obviously incredibly trendy. But what are the things, even maybe besides Annette, we obviously both think she's amazing in it, what are the things about American Beauty that you think do hold up and are great even? Okay, no.
Sorry, I am thinking, and that is such a shit, because to be honest, there's other things that come to my head that we haven't even talked about, like the depiction of homosexuality, and mental illness, and it's homophobic. That a gay person wrote this story is upsetting to me. And we've offline we've talked about Alan Ball's more recent film, which falls into lots of tropes of gay stereotypes, and is while not homophobic, is maybe not the most progressive film, Uncle Frank. Having said all that, I think American Beauty is pretty shocking by today's standards of how it depicts homosexuality.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, you asked me to talk about something positive. I think it is... I like how it's shot, which Conrad Hall is a cinematographer, and he has done lots of beautiful films like Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and all these sorts of things. And I'm glad that it introduced Sam Mendes to the world. Yes. But these are our clutching at straws. I don't think I'm not his biggest fan anymore. And I think even Annette's performance is great, but not the character in terms of the context of the film. Actually, she does sing "Don't Rain on My Parade."
I'll beat my drum, and if I'm found out, your turn at that, sir. At least I didn't fake it, a hat, sir. So what? I did make it.
So they include a bit of Jerry Herman. So there's another positive.
Yes. The other, I do think the craft is incredible. Yeah, cinematography, like you said, is incredible. I think this score is magical, and I think that Thomas Newman's style became too linked to this, and then too often sounded too similar to this. But as soon as the music started, I might have been watching it the other day going, oh no, this doesn't hold up. But the music would float in and I'd be like, oh, but I am transported back to feeling like I did about this film. It is incredibly strong, the music.
Yeah, it is. I just feel like it's used in so many different ways, but I agree with you. That's the thing. It's so iconic in a way and informed cinema in such a big way, American cinema in particular, that it's hard to escape those things. And I will have seen it so many times. Like, I watched it a lot as a kid. I hadn't watched it since, I don't know when, but and when I say kid, I mean teenager. I don't know how appropriate it is to... So anyway, I mean, there's so much you could go on about with American Beauty, like the cast, but I am grateful that it seemed to have put Annette Bening on a new sort of platform in terms of the roles she could get.
Yeah, it is. It's ultimately, go and watch Annette Bening being absolutely amazing. Line delivery like nobody's business. Even when the character is being painted to be terrible, she does it so well. The scene where they're getting into the car to head off and Thora Birch comes out and she goes,
Jane, honey, are you trying to look unattractive?
Yes.
Congratulations, you've succeeded admirably.
But and just her face, everything about it. When she finds Kevin Spacey like getting high and she's drunk, it's like,
Hi. I'm ready to go. I'll meet you out front.
It's so good.
Or even though it's not positive, being empowered by the gun and the way she's like, I feel amazing. Like all this, it's just so, like, it's not surprising young gay teenage boy would love it, that character.
Yes, and therefore we wrestle with our feelings towards it now. So hard.
Let's go back to the film that really put her on the map, which is The Grifters.
Yeah, let's.
Which is a film you had history with. I've only watched it for the first time before this.
You have a history with The Grifters.
Is that an ex that you want to talk about?
No, I just thought I'd get some Meryl into. I think, honestly, the only history I have with it is that I'm an Annette Bening fan, so The Grifters was something I suck out. Also, another hero of mine is Angelica Houston, so there was no way I was not going to have watched this film, because it also brought them both Oscar nominations. It is, to me, the imagery of that film is iconic. It tells the story of a series of three people. So you've got a mother and son, but that connection is already an interesting one, played by Angelica Houston and John Cusack, and his girlfriend, played by Annette Bening. And individually, they are all hustlers, grifters, as they're called. They're all kind of hustling to make money in very, very different ways. Some larger scams, some more kind of, finding a way to weasel some money out of someone at a bar. And it's about kind of how they connect and the trajectory of their lives as they meet. And it's a fascinating little film. You had seen it before, though, right?
No, this is my first time.
Oh, okay,
I really like
fun.
Stephen Frears movies. When Stephen Frears makes great movies, they are properly great.
Yeah.
And even if they're not great, oftentimes he'll be so good with actors and characters and making like a star performance So, and I love, as you do, Angelica, as well as Annette. So no, I was so delighted to watch it. This was such a joy. And I hadn't clocked that it would be referencing these older movies in a way. Like, it really is very much like a Humphrey Bogart film. But there's also like a hint of, or references like Sudden Fear in it about mistaken identity and things like that. I really enjoyed it. And I think Annette is just so sexy and charismatic.
I'm sorry.
Why? What's wrong?
You are a valued customer, as you know.
But what's wrong?
I can't understand this. It's something you almost never see.
What is?
This is some of the finest filigree platinum I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But the stones, no. They're not diamonds, Mrs. Langtree.
But they must be. They cut glass.
So she is very much a supporting character. So there were times I was like, I wish we were spending more time with her. With her, it's just this sort of electric energy.
Yeah.
It's such a shame like the film wasn't as commercially successful as maybe they were hoping. And if it was, and it was as iconic as it should be within like popular culture, she would have been a Meryl Streep, Glenn Close, those sorts of people. She would have had this moment, which is a shame because it's just so good. Like, she's such a movie star.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. She's dangerous, she's assured.
I'm still the best long con roper you'll ever see.
I bet you are, too. Now you're trying to rope me.
Join up with you.
She's doing something that I don't think we've ever had from her otherwise necessarily, but I think that's also the joy of Annette, is that she always brings something very fresh and exciting. But it does make sense to me that this would have informed things that came after. Like, I can understand her playing Carolyn in American Beauty from this, even though they're very different performances. You can get the energy, even just the posture and the stance and everything she brings to it. It's amazing. She is electric in it. She is the dangerous one of the piece. Like, for me, it's hard to distinguish between the two because John Cusack is fine in this, but Angelica and Annette are absolutely amazing in this.
No, really, you're Roy's mother? That's impossible.
Not quite. But I'm not sure who you are, Mrs. Langtree, was it?
I'm Roy's friend.
Yes. I imagine you're lots of people's friend.
And both doing things that they'd never done before. The iconic looks that they have are wonderful. Angelica Houston, for example, we're very familiar with her kind of very, very dark-haired presence, and here she's got a peroxide blonde do, and the way she dresses, there's an iconic moment of her going down in a lift, and that is forever seared in my mind as kind of iconic imagery of cinema. But yes, it's a lot of fun. This film in general, the score is something to definitely know. Elmer Bernstein's score is absolutely brilliant. I just think it is a lot of fun, and probably one that, although was very much recognised at the time, might have faded a bit now, and I really think people should go back to it because it's a really good time with really great performances in it. I'm a big fan, and I would really recommend The Grifters.
Yeah, so would I. God, and if we compare it to, say, American Beauty, the women in it are very... The women are front and centre. It's really about them. They are powerful, and it's really exciting to see them, just them interact with the world around them, even when they're working in a dangerous field. So it's not all great what happens, but they are powerful to a point, without spoiling the ending and stuff. But it is interesting to watch them interact. I love it.
Yeah, and she has a lot of ownership over herself. Like, she is a grifter, and she will also choose sex as a grift. She's so good. I love her in this. I love it.
And it's interesting because I watched this first and then rewatched Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, but Gloria Graham is such a good reference point for Annette Bening in The Grifters. Yeah. And then for her to go and play Gloria Graham, who, for those who don't know, is she won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. She was this film noir supporting actor who was sexy, sultry, dangerous, and smart, but sadly usually not smart enough to survive to the end of the movie. She's wonderful, Gloria Graham, and I would definitely suggest watching films like In a Lonely Place, The Big Heat, Sudden Fear. And yeah, well, when I heard they were making a movie about Gloria Graham with Annette Bening and one of the most attractive men,
oh my God,
Jamie Bell.
Oh, isn't he? We agree on that one. Oh, he is.
I was like, yeah, that was amazing. And I went to see it in the London Film Festival. I've seen it about twice since then, and I think she is terrific in a film which largely, so it's focusing on Gloria Graham in her older years as she's dying in Liverpool, which is where her love interest, played by Jamie Bell, is living, and she doesn't want to die there. She wants to go back to Hollywood, is it? She goes? I can't even remember now. But she doesn't want to die in Liverpool is the main thing. And she reflects on their relationship.
I think she does want to die in Liverpool. They encourage her to not.
But she dies in Liverpool?
No. She does leave.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
she leaves.
sorry.
But she does. I think she would want to have stayed.
Oh, I see what you mean. Sorry, she wants to die in Liverpool. Film stars want to die in Liverpool. Doesn't have the same ring to it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and it reflects on their relationship. And you do learn a lot about Gloria Graham and all these things, but it's just really good. And sadly, it does fall into loads of like tropes of biopics. Yeah. But there's some really lovely moments in it. Like there's a moment where she's first getting to know Jamie Bell, and it comes up, the conversation about children comes up, and he's like shocked that she isn't motherly, like she's not maternal.
What, you didn't think I'd have any kids?
Oh, no, I just didn't expect you to have 4. No, that's like, what?
1 more than 3.
Yeah. So where are they now?
Oh, I keep them safe with my 4 ex-husbands. I am going to go powder my nose.
She's kind of like, I'm going to ignore you. Like, you need to grow and better yourself if you're going to be hanging out with me. Is the tone of it, which I think, even for a film that's not that old, is still surprising or it's good to see, because we still don't have many female characters who are parents that are not maternal, and it's they're not a villain or something.
Yeah. And
then there's this great moment where she's being celebrated for her opening of her show, and she's very aware of the room.
Congratulations, Miss Graham. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Georgie wants to fuck you.
Darling, everybody here wants to fuck me.
Gloria, fucking great.
So, and Annette, Annette's performance goes from this like, oh, I'm just a woman a bit lost to do all these things, and then she's just like sexy film star. I think it's really beautifully done, and her interactions with, say, Julie Walters, who's also in the cast, is really glorious. And I'd watch Jamie Bell any day.
Oh my God, yeah. I think the highlight of the film, which by the way I think is really terrific, is just how sexy it is. The pair of them together is really sexy. There's these moments of them when they first meet as well, dancing, and they're just having such a good time, and it's so free and just sexy and exciting. And even though they're coming from very different places and there's an age difference in these things, you're just like, fuck yeah, this is what life is. This is what like romance should be. This is what sexuality should be. It's wonderful. I think it's great. I saw this when it premiered at London Film Festival a few years ago, and thank heaven she was there. I then went the next day and saw her front row for her screen talk at the festival, so big fan. But yeah, I love it so much. There is just one thing, though, that doesn't sit right with me, is that his character has a moment in the film where he says he's into basically girls and boys. He said girlfriends and boyfriends, but he didn't scream when he met Gloria Graham. Didn't even know who she was. something's fucking up here. It makes no sense to
me. They go heavy in that in the film in general of like, was that Gloria Graham, or like the dad knows Gloria, you know, and that's fair enough perhaps.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
And perhaps her films weren't being reshown. I think Gloria Graham's someone that isn't that famous collectively within the film community or outside, so perhaps it's not shocking. I thought you were going to say like it's a shame the film didn't deal anymore with his bisexuality.
Yeah, also very true. No, I shouldn't have made a pun. I should have.
But you're right. But I'm being too serious. Because I want to see Jamie Bell with a man, any man, with me, with you. Well, not sorry, that sounds weird.
Well, please.
I'm not.
Share on this podcast.
I prefer to be an active member
it's my
of
birthday,
whatever Jamie Bell's doing.
So I get him. I smell a prize coming on for later.
Smell.
Sorry, that's me. It's very hot here.
Okay, wait.
But
let's back it up.
She's wonderful. Going back to Annette, she is incredible. She's primed for this role, though. Not because like, oh, Annette's fading and that, you know, that's where. No. I think she just gets this woman. Yeah. She gets under her skin. She knows her, and she has a huge amount of respect. You can feel the respect that she brings, and with it comes the warmth and the heart. And it elevates something that otherwise may have been a lot less than what it has turned out to be. But for me, it's a really, really lovely watch. And anything that reteams Jamie Bell and Julie Walters is heaven.
I didn't even clock that.
Wow!
So silly.
Oh my
I probably
God.
did at the time. But
the Billy Elliot connection, no, that's like my favourite thing ever. So they're back together.
So yeah, and compare it to something like My Week with Marilyn, where the Michelle Williams played Marilyn Monroe, and Eddie Redmayne plays a love interest. This is way better. It doesn't fall into so much traps. And they actually, that character Eddie Redmayne plays is bisexual in real life, but they like totally heteronormalize that story.
That's very interesting. But I think although this one does, it's familiar. Let's call it that. It falls into kind of familiar places, but it also has some really. Again, they're maybe not incredibly inventive, but has some really beautiful moments, like in flourishes of kind of given the kind of stagey nature of their lives. She's a stage and screen actress, and he also is a stage actor, and they kind of going through doorways, and you find yourself on the beach or coming back into houses by coming off of these places. I think it's a really lovely film. I think it's really touching, and all involved, I think, are doing a really wonderful job.
Yeah, and she really does elevate it.
She does.
And I'm really intrigued to hear your thoughts on a film which I assume, so after American Beauty, herself and her team, perhaps are thinking, let's position Annette as doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get her a romantic comedy.
Let's.
They go for a remake of The Women. The Women was a film in 1939, which notably had no male characters appearing in it. They talk about men a whole freaking time, but there is no men. And the cast included Norma Shearer, Joan Crawford, Rosalind Russell, Joan Fontaine. I don't know why I'm pausing for Joan Fontaine. I swear her ghost, she might kill me. I don't know. She always scared the shit out of me.
Enter Joan Fontaine, ladies and gentlemen.
And Joan Fontaine. Loads of people, loads of women. And, it makes sense that they would want to remake that, perhaps, and have whoever the contemporaries of those sorts of film stars from the 30s, but in 2008. And let's start with the casting.
Okay.
Because if you had the, let's just say I don't think they had their choice of anybody, because Meg Ryan is a good shout for the lead, perhaps.
This is where I'm
in theory.
scowling.
In theory, Annette Bening, really terrific choice for her character as a kind of co-lead actually in this version.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's clear they've gone to the bargain basement of film stars of that time. You've gone for what I would say is one of the worst big screen anyway, performers, Deborah Messing.
Oh my God, but all of the scarves.
I just like... Deborah Messing is
She's
so
not
bad.
messing. She's delivering every time without fail.
And I'm scared to mention the other person because do you think it's all right to mention Jada Pinkett Smith in a negative way?
Get her fucking name out of your fucking mouth.
And Jada's not good too. But the story is Meg Ryan is a well-to-do woman. She works for her dad and she's being sacked, and then she finds out through Annette Bening and Deborah fucking Messing that her husband's having an affair with the spritzer girl from some shop that they keep mentioning the name of, so it must be famous. Saks, yeah, I don't know what that is. But anyway, so Eva Mendes.
Saks Fifth Avenue.
So Meg Ryan's having a bit of a breakdown. And it is interesting. My memory of it was that it was so bad. I think it's better than I thought it was because I thought it was the worst film ever made.
What a twist! A birthday twist.
I also love that I'm saying American Beauty is not great and The Women is good, but I don't think The Women is good. I just think it's better.
Brilliant.
I just think it's much more interesting than I gave it credit for. And I think I probably, in a negative way, jumped on the bandwagon of like, what's this story about women and this thing? Because, like, for instance, Annette Bening is playing an editor of a fashion magazine. No idea why, because she clearly has no, like, sense of interest or sense of style in terms of the character. Like, she's really struggling with any sort of concept for the magazines and what to do.
Really.
She really is like there is not one spark of creativity in that woman. But what she's doing is that she's trying to support her friends, trying to keep her business going. That is not in the original film, and that to me is interesting. But Deborah Messing's scarves and her suggesting to Jada Pinkett Smith, who's playing a lesbian, she suggests that she should settle down all the time. She's kind of like that'd be the sort of person I'd avoid now, where you hit your 30s and the expectation that you'd have a house, you should like save for a mortgage, have a baby.
Is this like a coaching session?
Yeah, I'm like, and I'm going to mention some names. No. Deborah, we know it's you. No, I don't know anyone. Well, I do know people like this, but I find it frustrating. And then Deborah Messing's the perfect person to play that kind of uppity and know-it-all, but actually knows nothing. And certainly doesn't know how to wear a scarf.
No, but she did in the Smash Hit Smash.
That's what it is. I was like, she keeps wearing like, I know she's pregnant the whole time, so whatever, but she's like wearing so many clothes.
Yeah, always lots of clothes.
She suggests to Jada Pinkett Smith she should settle down. It kind of indicates a man would be better than a woman.
When are you just gonna settle down with someone who's right for you?
Like a man, please.
You know that I accept you as my gay friend. Thank you. But all of a sudden, half the world is gay. Explain that.
It's so crazy to me that...
That's rich for you to say.
Me and Deborah have so much in common.
Oh, that was good.
I can't believe that I'm hating on her. No, she's... I don't know. I'd have to get off my high horse about disliking Deborah Messing.
Yeah.
Did you like Deborah Messing in this film?
I like her more than anyone ever. No, she's a bore in this film. And yeah, her character is just... You're just like... Because I think you do feel like it's going to go somewhere fun, and then she comes along, you're like... Bwomp,
so
like,
bad.
Oh, go away, Deborah. You're ruining the vibe. Because I think Annette's character is sort of vacuous despite her career successes, but she's playing it... I mean, she's just so good at this, right? I think she's playing up the shallowness that we might have seen in other more complex characters that she's played, and just really dialing into that.
I'm looking at a woman right now who should be in my magazine. Caption, there's a fine line between an outfit and a getup.
Where are you right now? You're not shopping, are you?
Of course, I deserve it. I was in my office at 6 this morning.
I'm a big fan of Meg Ryan, When Harry Met Sally being one of my all-time faves. But I don't really understand her placement here. I think she's grand. I think it's just... it's written like she's the nice one. Oh, the nice one. Thank goodness for her. But she is this kind of rich and privileged, or more so than any of them. But I did not enjoy it. I didn't not enjoy.
Okay. That was like, did you what?
The women. I had a good time. It's a strange one. The creator, the
you can
creator
call her
of
creator. Don't you be downplaying this woman's contribution to cinema.
Well, no, the creator of this film, so the writer or who adapted it for the screen and I think directed it is the creator of the TV series Murphy Brown, and that's kind of the only other thing she'd done, an interesting mix. So I can understand why everyone would want to be involved. Oh, the creator of one of the most kind of iconic TV shows of a certain time, female-driven TV shows. She's now going to do a remake of this 30s classic. Why wouldn't we want to get involved? But yes, it's messy. There's some strange lines in there.
There's some amazing. One of my favorite lines in any movie ever now is,
I could suck the nails out of a board, and that is a fact.
Now, they're talking about a blowjob, but no suction like the suction.
Oh,
that's not needed. Basically, I was just like, why are you talking about Eva Mendes this way?
Oh my god, you're getting you're delivering far too much with this. But what's another?
What do you think she sells? Chanel number shit?
Come on, we can do better than that.
Do you know what it really reminded me of? And this is another movie that I think is objectively not good, but I get a lot out of it, and I think it's too rare to see women on screen, is the Sex and the City films.
Okay.
Because they're messy, they're silly, you have some kind of poignant moments, but most of the time it's without what the original TV show was doing. So it's not surprising to me that those kind of films were made around that time, and thankfully we've moved on to much more interesting and more contemporary female-focused films like Bridesmaids, for instance.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a very good way of putting it. It does feel like that, because I think it's important we say it is not objectively good. It lets men off the hook. Even though there's no men here in the cast, it lets them off the hook anyway.
Oh my god, yeah, Meg Ryan is telling everybody that she's blaming herself because her man cheated on her. So I know where they were going, because that's not in the original either. That is okay, it's a two-way street. But I think it's so basic how they talk about it that it actually comes across as Meg Ryan's a bit of a doormat. Yeah. And I like Meg Ryan, but I don't like her well enough for that to work in this part.
No, it doesn't work in this part. And also podcast favourite Candice Bergen plays her mother.
Yeah.
And she's just sort of the dialogue is encouraging, oh, he made a faux pas, it's fine, and it's there is truth in that, it can be fine, but don't make it seem like that is the categorical correct answer to this, is that let him off, it's fine, he's done. No, fuck that. So yes, it's not ideal. I think your comparison to the Sex and the City makes a lot of sense, but yeah, so ultimately not unenjoyable.
No,
the women.
And it's on Netflix. Honestly, I watched on a plane ride, stuck at Dublin Airport for hours. Best time of my life.
Oh my god, perfect.
No, that was a perfect time to watch. I think that might be the
actually,
best.
If you watched it now, just comfortable at home, you'd be like, what?
No.
What?
So the last film we're going to talk about properly, and there's so many, it breaks my heart that we...
Oh my god, there could be so many we could have talked about, yeah.
But it's a film I think we both feel very strongly about, in terms of this should have been the American Beauty of a State. I don't understand how 20th Century Women is not considered one of the best films ever made by everybody. Why people didn't flock to the cinema, why didn't change cinema, why Mike Mills isn't being celebrated as one of the greatest American filmmakers. I think this film is... perfect's the wrong word for it, because it may not be perfect, but it's just so authentically telling a story about humanity and about Annette Bening's mother character, who for various reasons has people living in her house with herself and her son, and she is very, in one hand open of learning and embracing everybody, but on the other hand likes to dictate what is going on, and it's wonderful.
I think maybe you guys can help me with Jamie. I think he needs help in figuring out how to be himself in all this mess. And I can't be there. I can't be there with him. I have to let go.
Is this because of the fainting thing? He's fine.
No, it's because of everything.
Yeah. This is maybe, and we've talked about some wonderful films on this podcast. We're 30, however many episodes in at this point. And we have talked about some of my other favourite films, but I think this might be objectively, in my mind, the best film we've ever spoken about. I love it. And you hit it on the head for me of saying, like, it's perfect, but it's not. And that is why it is perfect. It's perfect because it's imperfect. It makes you think. Nothing is clear. It doesn't give you anything, just, hand it to you. Here's the answer. No. It's really, really complicated in how it deals with the dynamics of a mother and other women in her life and a son. And this boy being brought up around specifically Annette Bening's mother, but also these other women. That's sort of where the film goes. It's a 1970s story, I think kind of semi-autobiographical. Mike Mills, the director, of his upbringing. Annette Bening being the kind of reflection of his mother. And the other women that came into his life, I guess, and also contributed to his upbringing. We have Greta Gerwig as a woman who's obviously coming from the East Coast, punkier aesthetic, coloured hair, found herself in Santa Barbara where the film is set, and is renting a room in the house of Annette Bening's character. And then we have Elle Fanning as the kind of the same aged person as the son in his life, but she is more promiscuous than him and kind of goes astray in her own way, however, is always run back to him, and how kind of life builds around these women. It is heaven. It is the best thing that you could possibly watch, in my opinion. It's absolutely beautiful, and Annette Bening's performance in this is perhaps one of, if not the best performance that I've ever seen on screen.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's when I can't. So it was at Oscars, it got one nomination for screenplay, but it is shocking that it didn't. I just don't know how it wasn't a hit. Maybe it was mishandled in terms of release. Maybe I don't. It's a real strange one. I do believe it's something that people will come to, and in the future it'll be considered one of the greatest films ever made. But it's also really complex, and the focus is the mother and son and their relationship. And at the start, you see, like, Annette is called in because the son has forged her signature. Yeah. And her reaction to that is like, oh,
how did you forge my signature so well?
That is ingenious. But you should never forge someone's signature or do anything behind someone's back.
Then she starts giving these new notes that are just so over the top.
Please excuse Jamie from school this morning. He was doing volunteer work for the Sandinistas. Please excuse Jamie from school this morning. He was involved in a small plane accident. Fortunately, he was not hurt.
And she's just proving a point, and she's teaching him a lesson in a way that you wouldn't expect, but is really interesting. But then on the flip side, like towards the end of the movie, there's a really striking conversation where the son points out she's not listening to her own advice.
I'd like to know what's going on with you. I mean, I know this has all been a lot for us to deal with.
Mom, I'm dealing with everything right now. You are dealing with nothing.
Which I also think is very much a difference in age gap. Even today, like even more so, we talk about mental health and all these things. I can only imagine the differences in like however 20 or 30, 40 years between a child and a parent when you talk about, say, mental health. It would be very similar of like, no, I'm fine. Like unless my head is falling off or whatever, I'm absolutely fine. And it's just really wonderful. I just love spending time with the film. I've seen it a few times and I just get more and more out of it. So no, I loved it. I was delighted to rewatch it for this.
Yeah, it's That's really interesting. The mental health thing, I think, is something that is, or how things have changed over time, our perspectives have changed, and there is kind of a couple of interesting readings in the film about that, about being depressed and what it looks like. It sounds like if you go down that path, you're depressed. It confuses me that it's not more beloved. However, I do think it comes from what you're saying and what I've said as well about it being so complex, in that it doesn't give you everything. Maybe that's what makes it tricky for people, because it asks you as an audience to think and really relate to these people. And I think anyone who watches this, we're both talking about it now and it sounds like we're on the same page, but I imagine even you and I are getting something very different from it, because it's just not kind of clear in her character in particular. So Annette Bening has said that this is the only character she's ever played that at the end of the shoot she still didn't understand her. And I think that's amazing, and that's so telling, because it is a woman making choices, like you've said. Like, she says things, she contradicts herself, she doesn't listen to her own advice. She's a human being, and she gives it such humanity. There's so much wonderful moments in this film. There is writing in this that is second to none, and it's quite simple, but it's because it's to the point and it cuts through it. A moment I can think of, or I could think of quite a few, but I'll just name a couple, around she wants her son to be there to support someone who's having a difficult situation, and he doesn't think he's up to the task because he's young, and what if something terrible happens? And she says,
You have to start somewhere. Men always feel like they have to fix things for women, or they're not doing anything. But some things just can't be fixed. Just be there. Somehow that's hard for all of you.
Mom, I'm not all men. Okay, I'm just me.
Well, yes and no.
And it's just like, oh my, it's so insightful. It's so wonderful. And the most beautiful moment between a mother and son, and explaining, oh God.
Yeah, but it is beautiful, like it is. And it's all delivered in a very naturalistic way, which is so, like when you're spouting this sort of like wisdom, like spiritual stuff, or, you know, she just does such a good job.
Yeah, she's so good. And the most beautiful moment perhaps where she says,
You get to see him out in the world as a person. I never will.
Wow, it allows you a different way in to looking at a family dynamic in a way we've never had before. It's a really interesting counterpoint to American Beauty, and I'm so glad we have them both. And I'm so glad we have her in them both, I should say, because I'm far less glad of one than the other. But it's quite interesting to watch them together. 20th Century Woman, however, is by far the superior film. But I mean, I would say that to many films. It's incredible.
And just because I've been referring to him as the son, the actor's name is Lucas Jade Zuman, who is terrific.
He's so good.
Yeah, and there are so many other films. I don't know if there's any particular moments of her career that or filmography that you want to talk about before we move on.
The Kids Are All Right for me is one of the high points in her career. That's where I would have given her the Oscar. I know Natalie Portman in Black Swan is an incredible performance, but Annette Bening in The Kids Are All Right to me is again some of the best screen acting I've ever seen. And another film where it's a very specific dynamic between characters. So Lisa Cholodenko directing A Tale of Two Lesbian Parents and their kids, and them wanting to meet the kind of biological father. And everyone in it's wonderful, but Annette Bening specifically for me is the high point of that film, and she does it all. She's incredibly funny, but she brings moments of walloping sadness when she has moments of realization in the film. So The Kids Are All Right is the one that stands out for me. However, I'm a fan, and I will watch many, and I think like you two, watching the smaller films. There is a film called The Face of Love, which I don't think many people will have heard of. It was certainly one of the later career films of Robin Williams. And when I watched it, I was like, oh God, this is going to be like really hokey, and we've seen it before. It's about a widow falling in love with somebody who looks like her past husband. And Ed Harris plays that character, and then Robin Williams is her friend. But I thought it's really beautiful, and I found it incredibly moving. And it's not unlike many things we've seen before, but the three of them in it are so terrific that I was really surprised by that film. So I just want to call out one that I think is barely seen in her filmography, even though her IMDb image is an image of her in that film.
Yeah, I second all that. I also would just put out Sally Potter's Ginger and Rosa. I also enjoy, even though, again, she's supporting and maybe it's not her showcase, but Elle Fanning is terrific in it. So yeah, well, I'm so glad we got to spend time with Annette.
Oh gosh, there's not enough time I could spend with Annette.
And before we go into talking about what we hope for her future, which includes, I'm sure, an Oscar, or a few. Hundreds. Imagine, Best Actress nominee is again Annette Bening. Meryl Streep will feel like an underdog.
Yeah, exactly, it's going to happen.
We're going to do a little quiz.
Woohoo!
And it's all about being 30.
Oh, wow.
Or around. This is a bit of a chaotic quiz, but I'm all for it. And you're present because you can have a make-believe present if you want.
Okay.
But we have a physical presence here in the room.
Oh my God.
Joan Fontaine. No, imagine. If you were haunted by one actor, I'd scare shitless by her.
Oh God.
No, I'm going to present, and forgive me for the sound of this because it's in a very squeaky package.
Oh no, I think
Not
that's
squeaky,
better.
but like
Because
rustly.
then people can hear.
It is it's from the 1992 film, so year of your birth. Death Becomes Her. Meryl and Goldie Hawn holding each other.
Oh my God!
In the most glamorous shot.
Absolutely heavenly.
But in fact, could you hand it back to me? Because you haven't won it quite yet.
Oh, you haven't, but you have. What was that? What was the game show back in the day where they would give them something? And it was Chris Tarrant, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, would give them the check and be like, "But you."
But I don't want to. I don't want to give you that. Because Mary, you could lose everything.
Oh my God! And then Michael gets the Death Becomes Her T-shirt. No,
it wouldn't fit me. Because it's small.
It's too big
small.
for you.
Okay. Anyway. Oh yeah, quiz. I was like, where am I? What are we doing?
Joan.
Oh my Lord. That will be me. God, if I get like dementia when I'm older, I swear I'd be like, I'll talk about all these people. I remember when Joan Fontaine visited me. And they're like, what the hell? What is this gay man on about? So, the first question, if you choose to answer it, is as we have Meryl on the T-shirt, I want to know how many Oscar nominations did Meryl Streep have by the time she was 30?
Oh no, this T-shirt's not going to find its way to me. Okay, by the time she was 30, right. So of the 75,000 nominations she has, how many of those were by the time she was 30?
This is a pretty unfair question because, now looking at it, the 80s were a big time for her.
Yeah, so there's a lot in there. But I'm just going to keep trying with this logic. And
do you want me to tell you when she was born, the year?
Go on.
So Meryl Streep was born in 1949.
1949. Okay, so that means up until 79. Okay, so we exclude the 80s. So then we are just looking at the Deer Hunter, Kramer versus Kramer. Do I think there are others in there? I don't. I'm going to say 2.
Okay, she only had 1.
Okay, so it was just the Deer Hunter then.
But on the cusp of winning. And that's what I want to tell.
Okay.
I want to educate you that when Meryl turned 30, she won her first Oscar.
Well, there we go. So you're going to allow it. Thank you. Yay, points for me.
And now I'm going to turn to Steven Spielberg. Do you know how many Oscar nominations he had by the time he was 30?
Steven Spielberg by the time he was 30. Spielberg is then going to be 1.
0.
Okay.
Jaws was nominated for Best Picture. Do you know the video that he took of himself getting live? And he was furious.
So upset.
Oh, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I wasn't nominated. I got beaten out by Fellini.
Okay, so no, none. But I was actually just thinking of Jaws, but of course you're right.
I mainly know it because of this video. It's the same video where he starts claiming Bob Fosse shouldn't have won Best Director over Francis Ford Coppola for The Godfather. It's a bit very much like young, privileged Bale. Yeah. Anyway, again, the only way is up.
Well, truly. So the life begins at 30, apparently. No Oscars by 30, thank God.
And now, can you tell me how many Best Actress winners have been under 30?
No. How many under 30? Most of them. Probably not most of them. I imagine most are probably in their 30s. If there's, on average, the decade where there will be most, I would say, is 30s. It might not be.
Yeah, it just skew younger.
Okay, so let's just go, because there are plenty, but I have no way of gauging this. So I'm just going to jump in and I'm going to say if there's been... So I'm going to say
I'll give
29.
Okay, I was going to say I was going to give you within 4, but you're off.
No.
It's 36.
Okay.
I'm going to list them all, but that is
That's
mad.
okay. I don't feel mad about that. That's close enough.
And can you tell me the equivalent of the Best Actor? How many were under 30?
Oh, much, much less, because it always skews the other way for actors. So if there was 36 for actress, then for actor in their 20s, winners, 7.
1.
Wow!
Only Adrian Brody in The Pianist. And I was like, no, that can't be true. And in my head it was like Eddie Redmayne, but Eddie Redmayne was in his 30s.
So the youngest ever winner of Best Actor is Adrian Brody in The Pianist.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
So, guys... I don't want to, toot my own horn, but we have uncovered a problem in Hollywood to do with sexuality. I was going to say with gender. Okay, so now let's focus on 1992.
Okay.
30 years ago,
right?
That Oscar ceremony. What won Best Picture?
1992 was...
So released in 1991.
Released in 91, was 92, is Unforgiven?
No.
Oh, pooey.
No.
It is...
I can feel the t-shirt slipping away. I think we both consider this one of the best films ever made.
Silence of the Lambs. Was it? Oh, I thought it was 19. So it was a 91 film. Yeah, okay, my favourite film of all time, perhaps.
And can you tell me, and this is a bonus thing, of like, if you get this, it doesn't matter how you did in the rest of the quiz. What is an interesting stat Silence of the Lambs has in terms of its wins at the Oscars?
So it is one of 3 winners of the Big 5.
Yeah, and what are the Big 5 for those not in the know?
Are Best Actress, Best Actor, Best Director, Best Film, and Best Screenplay.
Correct. And can you tell me the 2 others?
Yes, I can. They are One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and It Happened One Night.
Amazing. Well,
thank you.
I'm going to hand it over. Apologies again for the sound.
Oh my god. No, we need the sound. Let's make it.
Oh my god. Now it sounds like a bag of crisps or something.
I'm now having a bag of cheese and onion Walkers.
Imagine.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely stunning. I will never have looked better than I put this on. And then you're like, oh my goodness, that's really showing off how much weight you put on.
Yeah, we'll share a picture on the social media channels.
Oh,
at don'tknowher_pod. Well, amazing. And now we can go back to the woman of the hour. What was that noise? Did you hear it too? I swear Joan is in the room.
Why does she bother us? We're talking about Annette. Your time will come, Joan.
Oh, do you think people don't know who Joan Fontaine is?
I certainly have no idea she is.
Do you know?
I'm kidding.
Oh, anyway, for those who don't know, she's a wonderful actor from
Ghost.
the past. Yeah, I was
She's
going to say
a
from the
wonderful
past.
ghost.
Yeah, from film like Alfred Hitchcock films like Suspicion and Rebecca. And if you think like what's going on with Leah Michele and Beanie Feldstein is dramatic, all you have to look at is Joan Fontaine and her sister Olivia de Havilland's interesting dynamic, both Oscar winners and both with a lot of opinions.
Yeah, and very famously in a previous quiz, it was unveiled that I never knew they were sisters.
Anyway, to Annette, where do you want to start when we think about her future?
Sorry, I just needed to do that. Let's start with a sequel. And I spoke about it earlier, and it would be The Kids Are All Right. Obviously, I'd love to be back in the world of 20th Century Women, but without any spoilers, I think it's important it is a one-film situation. However, The Kids Are All Right, for me, similarly creates a world that I kind of just want to be there with them, even though there's a lot of tensions and problems. It's family, it can be tough. But the world they inhabit is somewhere I would want to be back. And at the end of the film, we see them at kind of a pivotal crossroads in their family life. And although we wouldn't, because of the time that's passed since that film came out, about 12 years, I think, we probably wouldn't pick up right from there. But I want to see where they're at now. I want to be back with Annette and Julianne and see where they're at in life. So that would be my choice. What about yours?
Well, the only one that really jumped out at me, and when it did, I was like, yes, is Mars Attacks 2.
Okay, great.
Just because I think, that kind of silly wild story just could keep on going.
Sure.
Like, not many people survive the end of Mars Attacks, but Annette thankfully does. As does Tom Jones, I believe. So you could pick it up with those two. And either they decide to attack Mars or Mars comes back. I don't know. I don't really mind. I love it. Actually, Natalie Portman survives too, so bring her in.
Stunning.
And Tim Burton can do it again. I don't mind. I really love Mars Attacks as a film.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. I only watched it for the first time, I think, a couple of years ago. And yes, what a wild ride it is with a jam-packed cast. So yeah, let's bring them back together. Let's have it. Mars Attacks 2. Okay, so let's then look at a remake. So let's then do a bit of recasting. Perhaps let's see where we'd like to have Annette. I think there's a million ways I could take this, and because of that, I quite struggled to decide what it was. But the thing that kept coming to my head, and it feels too... Also, it feels like something that shouldn't be done, but I'm too intrigued, and maybe there's a way of doing it, is Sunset Boulevard. Sorry, Glenn. Wow. No, but I don't mean the musical version. I mean maybe a contemporary re-envisioning of Sunset Boulevard. But then I like the old Hollywood slant to it. But I don't know. I think Annette can do that, and we've seen her embody characters that bring that sort of theatrical flair that we had from Gloria Swanson playing Norma Desmond. But I think she could bring a lot of nuance. We could have a rougher, still maybe a noir-edged type situation, and I would just love it. I would love it. But also, you and I spoke the other day about, and we meant no ill by it, but which of Meryl Streep's parts would we put her into? We both said The Devil Wears Prada, and that stuck with me. Meryl Streep is incredible in Devil Wears Prada. I wouldn't change that. However, I would be fascinated to see Annette in a role like that. And
playing a pretty effective, talented editor, as opposed to the shitty one in The Women. My remake, funny enough, goes back quite a long way as well to Sudden Fear. And I'm pretty certain, I talked about it in this episode, but I'm pretty certain I must have talked about this film before in the podcast, but it's this Joan Crawford film where she's a playwright that sacks, she's Saxon actor, played by Jack Palance, is that how you say his name?
Mm-hmm.
And the play's a hit, and he's disgruntled, but they meet on a train, fall in love, get married, but all is not what it seems. As a woman, actually played by Gloria Graham, enters, and we question the motives of Jack Palance. But Joan Crawford's character is very... What's the word? She's very proactive, and it is a fascinating film. I'm obsessed with this film anyway, so I highly recommend it. But I think Annette Bening in the Joan Crawford part would be fascinating. Because you believe her as a playwright that's like, has her shit together, she falls in love, she lets this person in, and suddenly things are a little bit dangerous and sexy, and she gets to wear amazing clothes. It's going to be great.
Okay, so we're going for the Joan Crawford
part.
For
sure, yeah.
Amazing. Great. Okay, love it. I've never actually seen Sudden Fear anyway, but I'm sure you'll promise to project it for me someday.
Oh my God, yeah, I'd love that. Such a good film.
There we go. Another prize for me on this 30th. And then in terms of kind of another future thing, I've said this name before because it's always a really easy name to come to when we think of directors. But seeing Annette with Greta Gerwig in 20th Century Women, and there's a scene in 20th Century Women around what it means to be a mother, and it's also one of the, very quickly, it's like a 5 to 10 second scene of dealing with the loss of a, potentially having children, and is it important to have children, and how Annette's character deals with that. It's a beautiful, beautiful scene. But those two in that moment, and also in the rest of the film, I think there's a real chemistry and an understanding as performers. So I imagine Greta Gerwig would be a fantastic director for Annette Bening. In a Lady Bird type piece, well, just anything. I mean,
Barbie movie.
Stick her in Barbie. Maybe she's there and we don't know about it. She is Barbie. Margot Robbie is not Barbie. Or she's Ken. There's pictures of Ryan Gosling are all a stunt. Annette Bening is Ken in the Barbie movie. I think they'd be wonderful. Otherwise, the thing that came to my head was like, and this can go back to the remake thing as well, I guess, a combo is like a Beaches type film, a tale of friendship between women and the things that bond them together, even when times are hard. A little bit melodramatic, but ultimately very human and funny and warm. Something like that. Who would I put her with in that situation? Sally Field.
Oh my God, I love it. Or like a Steel Magnolias. Like
Sure. Let's
with
have
Shirley
that too.
as well back.
Oh my God, yes.
Just to clarify, are you calling it 20th Century Women or Woman?
Women.
Women. If your accent makes it, it's like woman.
Women.
Mine. So for my last thing, I was trying to pick someone who has already collaborated with an actor, and really given them something to shine and find kind of the nuances in their performance styles, and then really elevates them even further. And I was thinking of Paul Thomas Anderson and Daniel Day-Lewis, and I really thought Paul Thomas Anderson with Annette Bening could really find all the notes. And I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis is incredible, but I think Annette Bening's just as talented. And easily, I mean, I could happily just have her do Phantom Thread, but she is the him, or There Will Be Blood. I don't really mind, but she would be perfect in those sorts of parts, in those sorts of worlds. So that's something I'm really gunning for. And a part of me thinks maybe that could happen if he ever did turn his attention to female characters as a lead and older women, because he doesn't tend to. I know Leslie Manville in Phantom Thread, but he has a specific sort of interest.
Not in the lead roles. No. That's great. Yeah, I can see her just bringing the full weight and force of her acting, and it being wonderful.
I've abandoned my child. I've abandoned my child.
Drink your milkshake. I drink it up. Yes, Annette. Yeah.
And then everyone be like, so what? And I'd be like, what more do you want this woman to do?
She's fine.
What more do you want from her?
What more do you want?
Are you not entertained? I would love if, like, on her deathbed, she's like, "Are you not entertained? What did I do wrong?" But no, she is celebrated, and she will continue to be so, whether it's with an Oscar nomination or win or not. She thankfully is getting these parts that are complicated, interesting, alongside things like Death and Lyle. So she has a varied filmography to this day, and it will probably continue. So no, I'm delighted to talk about her. Cannot wait to see what she does.
Yeah.
And I'm wishing you a very happy birthday.
Thank you so much. What a delightful birthday it has already been because of this, and will continue to be, I'm sure.
And Annette left a message. She said, please stop trying to contact her.
Oh, for God's sake, Annette.
But have a nice birthday.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out all the same.
And if people do want to reach out to us and wish you a happy birthday, how can they do that?
Well, you can get us, as I'm sure Annette did, through our social media channels. I'm talking Twitter and Instagram at don'tknowher_pod. Or if you fancy dropping us an email, you can do that too at don'tknowherpod@gmail.com.
Yes, and you can follow the link in those bios. Just give us a coffee or a cake if you want to give us a little bit of money. That really helps us with this work.
30th birthdays are expensive, so please. I want presents, I want gifts, I want more t-shirts like this one before me now, please.
So yeah, well, I look forward to celebrating your birthday more, Scott, and thank you for joining.
Thank you, a pleasure as always. Happy birthday to me, and we love you, Annette.
Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.